Hello and welcome, my friends and viewers, to this week's episode of Legendlore, where I draw cool pictures of monsters, races, characters, and classes from D&D 5th edition, while giving a small bit of quickly digestible history about them. Together we'll go over their origins within the game, how they're utilized in the modern edition, and how I like to utilize them in my own games. Today we encounter one of the strongest and most well-known vampire hunters in both old and modern D&D, Dr. Rudolph Van Richten. The history of Van Richten was actually pretty difficult for me to find, and while he does make a cameo appearance in the 5e module Curse of Strahd, it doesn't give us much to go on beyond his bardic persona of Rictavio and his surprisingly distinct love of animals. But I eventually was able to come across his origins in D&D 2nd Edition's campaign setting of Ravenloft. This book and many others tell the story of how Van Richten served as a doctor with a comfortable position for his wife and son, until he was set upon by a number of nomadic Vistani who brought to him one of their mortally wounded. Unable to save the man, he would learn that this tribe of Vistani were ordered under threat by Baron Metis, a powerful vampire lord, to bring him a suitable male for companionship and vampiric turning. They failed to capture a nearby noble's son, which led to the wounding and death of their tribesmember, and thus they took Van Richten's son out of both convenience and repayment for the lost life. Van Richten would find his goal and chase down the Vistani, acquiring various powers and interesting sources of assistance along the way, such as an army of zombies provided by the ancient Lich King, Aslan Rex. The Vistani's elder, one Madame Radonovich, cursed Van Richten with her dying breath, "Live you always among monsters, and see everyone you love die beneath their claws." From here he ventured to encounter the vampire baron and demanded his son be freed, only to learn that he had already been turned. Van Richten mercifully staked his son, and took on the baron's ire, but his wife would be the one to suffer for it with her life. From then on, Rudolph Van Richten made it his life's goal to rid the world of all undead, starting with the Baron himself. In time, despite his coldness to the Vistani because of his experience, Van Richten would eventually pick up an apprentice and protege in Esmeralda de Avenir, whom he would always keep at arm's length in order to protect her from the curse that was laid upon him, something that she never learned the existence of and possibly could have broken due to her own familiarity with the innate magic of the Vistani. He is also known to have two animal companions as well, a monkey named Piccolo, and a saber-toothed tiger who unfortunately has no name. Beyond his introduction in the Ravenloft campaign setting, Van Richten is further immortalized in the Van Richten series of monster compendiums and splat books, all delving into the lore and knowledge of D&D's darkest creatures. I highly recommend picking them up for some good distinct flavor on monsters like undead, werewolves, and the like. Rudolph Van Richten has two distinct personas, his disguise of Rictavio, the Barovian bard, and his normal undead hunting self. While I haven't found a proper depiction of Rictavio, Van Richten is normally shown as an older, half-elven man with a receding hairline, a pair of spectacles, a long duster coat, his monster hunting book, and a cane that is most definitely housing a silvered sword. For my piece, I've decided to reference the actor whose behavior I also reference when I play Van Richten, that being Jeremy Irons, but you know him as Scar from The Lion King, and more recently, Alfred from the Justice League. And of course, the evil wizard Profion from the good old 2000s Dungeons & Dragons movie. Regardless of past sins, I feel he is exemplary of the features that I want Van Richten to have, an older, distinguished gentleman with a sharp mind and mastery over social interaction, as well as mortal combat. There are also small hints of Percival de Rollo from the first campaign of Critical Role sprinkled in here as well. In my games, Van Richten has two distinctive differences from his normal presentation in Curse of Strahd. The first being that my Van Richten is a blood hunter, a class created by Matt Mercer, of which I have linked in the description below. He is a member of the Order of the Ghost Slayer, and has cut down dozens upon dozens of evil foes using blood magic, this earning him the suspicion and ire of most clerical orders due to his fight fire with fire method of thinking. The second change I have is that instead of just being a crusader for good who wishes to kill Strahd because vampires are evil, he has traveled to Barovia because he is faced with the fact that he's getting old. His hands are shaking, his wounds don't heal as fast, and the blood magic he calls upon takes a larger toll on him than it did in his youth. As such, he intends to go out swinging, and has chosen one of the largest threats he has ever faced to either be his greatest achievement or his final confrontation. This is part of the reason as to why his protege Esmeralda is so keen to find him, before he marches into a fight that he expects to lose. His Rictavio persona plays a much more active role in informing and protecting the players, for in their hopes to save Barovia and battle against the darkness that surrounds it, he does see a bit of himself from his younger rider years. In terms of combat and mechanics, I do not use Van Richten's normal stat block, for obvious reasons. I don't imagine Van Richten as the kind to put his faith in gods, especially given his curse and his dark past. So I see him rather as the kind of man who believes if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. As such, I provide him with a stripped-down Ghost Slayer Blood Hunter mechanics, with a few combative wizard spells for range fighting, as well as some smite spells here and there for some good old supernova to dazzle the players. He's a man who loves to get into the fray, and fighting monsters head-on gives him a small chance to reclaim the rush of his youth. Finally, I also like to make the curse he suffers an actual game mechanic, and a risk that the players have to weigh if they convince him to join them on their adventures. His curse means that those who travel or get close to him are more likely to die by the monsters they hunt. So if a character begins to chip away at Van Richten's walls, monsters slowly begin to gain advantage on attacks against them, or they have to suffer disadvantage on saves against their abilities. This is but one of the many things I love to use from Guild Bounty's Reddit post, My Notes on Dr. Rudolph Van Richten, the Legendary Slayer, which I've also included in the description below. It really fleshes out the character and gives a much stronger emotional tie between Van Richten and Esmeralda, and has even had me consider to try and convince a future DM to play a PC version of Van Richten, in some way. Might be a pipe dream, but still something to think about. Van Richten is one of my favorite anti-hero characters in D&D, dealing with the constant struggle of his curse and the fact that he will eventually pass on, no longer serving as the bulwark between the innocent and the monstrous evils of the world. Thanks to everybody for watching, and if you want to keep updated on the next Legendlore, please subscribe to the channel and press the little bell icon. You can also follow me on social media for progress on each art piece, and please comment down below with your own depictions of Van Richten and how you like to utilize them in your own games. Also, let me know what else you guys would like to see on this channel. Until then, see you guys next time.